Haftorah portion is Ezekiel 45:16 through 46:18. All the people in the land are to present this offering to the prince in Israel. The prince's obligation will be to present the burnt offering, grain offering, and drink offering at the feasts on Rosh Hashanah and Shabbat, at all the designated times of the house of Israel. He is to prepare the sin offering, grain offering, burnt offering, and peace offerings to make atonement for the house of Israel. Adonai Elohim says this: On the first day of the first month you are to take a young bull without defect and purify the sanctuary. The Cohen will take some of the blood from the sin offering and put it on the door frames of the house, on the four corners of the altar's ledge, and on the support of the gate of the inner courtyard. You are also to do this on the 7th day of the month for everyone who has sinned inadvertently or through ignorance. Thus you will make atonement for the house. On the 14th day of the first month you are to have the Pesach, a feast 7 days long. Matzah will be eaten. On that day the prince will provide for himself and for all the people of the land a young bull as a sin offering. On the 7 days of the feast he is to provide a burnt offering for Adonai, 7 young bulls and 7 rams without defect daily for the 7 days, and a male goat daily as a sin offering. He is to provide as a grain offering a bushel of grain for a young bull and a bushel for a ram, and for each bushel of grain a gallon of olive oil. On the 15th day of the 7th month, during the feast of Sukkot, he is to do the same thing for those 7 days in regard to the sin offering, burnt offering, grain offering, and olive oil. This is what Adonai Elohim says: The east gate of the inner courtyard is to be shut on 6 working days, but on Shabbat it is to be open, and on Rosh Hashanah it is to be open. The prince is to enter by way of the outer vestibule of the gate, and stand by the support of the gate. The Kohanim are to prepare his burnt offering and peace offerings. Then he is to prostrate himself and worship at the threshold of the gate, after which he is to leave, but the gate is not to be shut until evening. The people of the land are also to prostrate themselves in worship before Adonai at the entrance to that gate on Shabbat and on Rosh Hashanah. The burnt offering the prince is to offer Adonai on Shabbat is to consist of 6 lambs without defect and a ram without defect. The grain offering is to be a bushel for the ram, while the lamb it can be as much as he wants to give, and a gallon of olive oil per ephah. On Rosh Hashanah it is to be a young bull, 6 lambs, and a ram, all without defect. He is to prepare a grain offering consisting of a bushel for a bull, a bushel for a ram, and for the lambs, as his means allow, with a gallon of olive oil per bushel. When the prince enters, he is to go in by the way of the vestibule of the gate, and he is to leave the same way. But when people of the land come before Adonai at the designated times, whoever comes in to worship by way of the north gate is to leave by way of the south gate, and whoever comes in by way of the south gate is to leave by way of the north gate. He is not to go back through the gate by which he entered, but is to exit straight ahead of him. On these occasions the prince is to be among them when they enter and when they leave. They are to leave together. At the festivals and at designated times the grain offering is to be a bushel for a young bull and a bushel for a ram, while for the lambs it can be as much as he wants to give, with a gallon of olive oil per bushel. When the prince provides a voluntary offering, whether it is a burnt offering or peace offering that he offers voluntarily to Adonai, someone is to open the east gate for him, and he is to provide his burnt offering and peace offering as he does on Shabbat. Then he will leave, and after he leaves, the gate is to be shut. You are to provide a lamb in its first year that has no defect for a daily burnt offering to Adonai. Do this each morning. Also each morning provide with it a grain offering, 1/6 of a bushel, and 1/3 of a gallon of olive oil to moisten the fine flour. This is the ongoing grain offering for Adonai by a permanent regulation. Thus they will offer a lamb, a grain offering, and olive oil each morning as the ongoing burnt offering. Adonai Elohim says this: if a prince turns over part of his hereditary property to one of his sons, it is his inheritance. It will belong to his sons. It is their possession by inheritance. But if he gives part of his hereditary property to one of his slaves, it will be his until the year of freedom, at which time it will revert to the prince. So the prince's heritage will go to his sons. The prince is not to take over any of the people's inheritance, thereby evicting them wrongly from their property. He is to give his sons an inheritance out of his own property, so that none of my people will be driven off their property.